It's Friday night. You're driving home, completely sober, and suddenly you see a line of cars ahead. Flashing lights, orange cones, officers waving you forward, your heart sinks. It's a DUI checkpoint. You haven't had a single drink, but something about this feels intrusive, like you're being treated as guilty before you've done anything wrong. And here's the thing, you're not imagining it. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you the 4 constitutional rights that still protect you at these checkpoints, and the exact phrases that keep you in control. I'm Attorney Atlas, your AI defense counsel, and let's get right into it. Before we dive in, let me be crystal clear about what this video is and what it isn't. This is educational content about your constitutional rights. This is not legal advice, and it's absolutely not a guide on how to evade the law or hide illegal activity. If you're driving impaired, you're putting lives at risk, and nothing I say here excuses that. What I'm teaching you is how to exercise your rights as a law-abiding citizen when the government stops you without individualized suspicion. That's what a checkpoint is, a suspicionless seizure. And yes, the Supreme Court has said they're constitutional under certain conditions, but that doesn't mean your rights disappear. Let's talk about what you still control. Right number 1, you have the right to minimal detention. Here's what most people don't understand about DUI checkpoints. The Supreme Court case Michigan Department of State Police versus Sitz ruled that these checkpoints are legal, but only because they're supposed to be brief and minimally intrusive. The court specifically said that the intrusion on individual liberty must be slight. That means officers can stop you, but they cannot hold you longer than necessary to fulfill the checkpoint's stated purpose, which is detecting signs of intoxication. Think of it like this. The checkpoint has a mission, just like a traffic stop. The mission is to briefly observe you for signs of impairment. That's it. Once that mission is complete, or reasonably should be complete, they must let you go. They cannot start fishing for other crimes unless they develop reasonable suspicion or probable cause for something else. So what does this look like in practice? The officer walks up to your window. They might ask for your license and registration. They're going to look at your eyes, listen to your speech, check if they smell alcohol. This initial contact should take 60 to 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes maximum. If the officer doesn't observe any signs of impairment, you should be waved through. But here's where it gets tricky. Officers are trained to extend these stops. They'll start asking questions designed to keep you talking. Where are you coming from? Where are you headed? What have you been doing tonight? These questions have nothing to do with detecting intoxication. They're investigatory, and you are not required to answer them. Right number 2, you have the right to remain silent. Yes, even at a DUI checkpoint, you have Fifth Amendment protection against self-incrimination. Now, there are limits. You do have to provide your driver's license, vehicle registration, and proof of insurance. That's not testimonial. That's administrative compliance with the privilege of driving. Most states, including many jurisdictions across the country, require you to identify yourself when operating a motor vehicle. But beyond that basic identification, you do not have to answer investigatory questions. Here's the key phrase I want you to remember. Officer, I'm exercising my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Or if you prefer something shorter, I respectfully decline to answer questions. Notice the tone here. You're not being rude. You're not hostile. You're being respectful and clear. And here's something critical. The Supreme Court case Salinas versus Texas made it clear that just staying silent isn't enough. You actually have to invoke your right to remain silent. If you just don't answer, prosecutors can later use your silence against you, claiming it showed consciousness of guilt. But if you clearly state that you're exercising your Fifth Amendment rights, they cannot use that against you. It's a constitutional protection, not evidence of wrongdoing. Now, I know what you're thinking. Attorney Atlas, won't that make me look guilty? Won't the officer think I'm hiding something? Listen, officers are trained to think everyone is hiding something. That's their job. Your job is not to convince them you're innocent. Your job is to exercise your rights and not give them ammunition to use against you. Because here's the reality. Anything you say can and will be used against you. That's not just something they say on TV. It's the literal truth. If you tell the officer you're coming from dinner and there's a restaurant near a bar district, now they're building a narrative. If you say you had 1 drink with dinner 3 hours ago, congratulations. You just admitted to consuming alcohol before driving. Even if you're under the legal limit, you've given them a reason to investigate further. Right number 3, you do not have to consent to searches. This is huge. At a DUI checkpoint, officers cannot search your vehicle without your consent or without probable cause. The checkpoint itself is a seizure, but it is not a search. Those are 2 different legal concepts with 2 different standards. A seizure means they've stopped you. A search means they're going into your private spaces like your car, your pockets, your bags. For a search, they need either a warrant, probable cause, or your consent, and consent is what they're hoping for. Here's how this usually plays out. The officer leans into your window and says, "You mind if I take a look inside your vehicle?" Or they might say, "You don't have anything illegal in the car, do you? So you wouldn't mind if I searched, right?" This is psychological manipulation. They're phrasing it in a way that makes it seem like refusing is suspicious or uncooperative. But here's the truth. You have an absolute right to refuse consent, and refusing consent cannot be used as a basis for probable cause. That's established law. Your response should be calm, clear, and unambiguous. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Say it just like that. Don't explain, don't justify, don't say, "Well, I don't have anything to hide," but no, clean and simple. "I do not consent to any searches. If they search anyway, without your consent, and without probable cause, any evidence they find can be suppressed in court. But if you consent, you've waived your Fourth Amendment rights, and everything they find is admissible." Consent is a legal waiver, and waivers are very hard to take back. Now, can they still search without your consent? Yes, if they have probable cause, if they see something in plain view, like an open container of alcohol, or if they smell marijuana, or if your behavior gives them articulable facts suggesting a crime, they can search without your consent. But that's on them to establish. Don't do their job for them by consenting. Right number 4, you can legally avoid the checkpoint. This might surprise you, but in most jurisdictions, you are allowed to turn around and avoid a DUI checkpoint entirely, as long as you do so legally. If you see the checkpoint ahead and there's a legal opportunity to turn off the road before reaching it, you can take that turn. You cannot make an illegal U-turn. You cannot turn without a signal. You cannot violate any traffic laws. But if there's a legal side street or driveway turnaround, you can use it. Now, here's the catch. Officers often position themselves before the checkpoint to watch for people who turn around, because they view that as suspicious behavior. And if you commit any traffic violation while turning around, they have reasonable suspicion to pull you over for that violation. But simply avoiding the checkpoint by making a legal turn is not, by itself, grounds for a stop. The courts have repeatedly held that avoiding a checkpoint is not reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. People avoid checkpoints for lots of reasons. They're in a hurry. They don't want to wait in line. They don't like interacting with police even when they've done nothing wrong. None of those reasons are criminal. So if you do decide to avoid a checkpoint, make sure you signal, check your mirrors, obey the speed limit, and drive perfectly. Because if you give them any legitimate traffic reason to pull you over, all your checkpoint rights go out the window. You're now in a normal traffic stop, and they have the authority to investigate the violation they observed. The playbook. What to do at a DUI checkpoint. All right, let's put this all together into a simple, actionable plan. Step 1. Stay calm and comply with basic requests. When you pull up to the checkpoint, roll down your window just enough to communicate and hand over documents. Keep your hands visible on the steering wheel. Be polite. There's no reason to be hostile or confrontational. Remember, this initial encounter should be brief. The officer is going to ask for your license, registration, and insurance. Provide those. That's not a violation of your rights. That's administrative compliance. Step 2. Limit your responses. If the officer starts asking questions beyond identification, use your Fifth Amendment right. "Officer, I'm respectfully exercising my right to remain silent," or "I prefer not to answer questions." You do not owe them an explanation about where you've been, where you're going, or what you've been doing. Those questions are not about safety. They're about building a case. Step 3. Refuse consent to search. If they ask to search your vehicle, your answer is immediate and clear. "I do not consent to any searches." Do not waver. Do not explain. Just refuse consent. Step 4. Ask if you're free to leave. If the stop is dragging on and you haven't been given a reason for further detention, ask, "Officer, am I free to go?" This puts them on notice that you're aware of your rights and that you're not consenting to an extended detention. If they say yes, you can leave. If they say no, they now have to articulate a legal basis for detaining you further. You've put them on the legal clock. Step 5. Document everything, if possible. If you have a passenger, ask them to discreetly record the interaction. If you're alone, try to activate your phone's voice recording or camera. Many phones allow you to say, "Hey Siri, start recording," or "Okay Google, record audio." You want a record of what was said and done. This protects you if the encounter becomes disputed later. Step 6. Do not physically resist. I cannot stress this enough. You will never win a physical confrontation with police on the side of the road. If they decide to search your car without consent, let them. If they order you out of the vehicle, comply. You can verbally state your objections for the record. I do not consent to this search. I am not resisting, but I do not consent. But do not physically resist. Save the fight for court, where your attorney can argue that your rights were violated. Resisting on the roadside only gives them more charges to file against you. The reality check. Look, I know some of you are thinking, Attorney Atlas, this sounds great in theory, but won't exercising my rights make things worse? And I get it. There's a societal pressure to just go along, to be cooperative, to not rock the boat. But here's the hard truth. Your rights exist specifically for moments when the government is exercising power over you. They don't mean much if you only exercise them when it's comfortable or convenient. Polite assertion of your rights is not obstruction. It's not suspicious. It's you recognizing that the Constitution still applies, even at a DUI checkpoint. Now, will some officers get frustrated? Maybe. Some officers don't like being reminded that citizens have rights, but that's not your problem. Your problem is protecting yourself from self-incrimination and unlawful searches. And the good news is that most professional officers will respect clearly stated boundaries. They might not like it, but they'll move on. It's the citizens who don't know their rights that officers can take advantage of, intentionally or not. A few critical warnings. 1. This information is general and educational. Laws vary by state and jurisdiction. Some states have specific checkpoint requirements or notification rules. Some have different standards for what constitutes reasonable suspicion. If you have a legal issue, consult with a licensed attorney in your area who understands your local laws. 2. If you are intoxicated, do not drive. Nothing I've said here is a guide to evading a DUI. These rights exist to protect sober, law-abiding citizens from unlawful government intrusion. If you're impaired, you're a danger to yourself and everyone else on the road. Call a cab. Call a friend. Do not get behind the wheel. 3. DUI checkpoints are controversial, and there are ongoing legal challenges to their constitutionality in various states. Some states have banned them entirely. Others have strict requirements for how they must be conducted. Know your local laws. Final thoughts. DUI checkpoints are a unique situation where the government admits it has no individualized suspicion of wrongdoing, but stops you anyway. The courts have allowed this as a narrow exception to normal Fourth Amendment protections, but only under specific conditions. Those conditions include brevity, minimal intrusion, and respect for your remaining rights. You still have the right to remain silent. You still have the right to refuse searches. You still have the right to not be detained longer than necessary. And you have the right to hold law enforcement accountable when they overstep. So the next time you see those flashing lights and orange cones, take a breath. You know what to do. Be calm. Be polite. Be clear about your rights, and don't give away what the Constitution still protects. If you found this helpful, leave a comment and let me know what other rights-related topics you'd like me to cover. And remember, knowing your rights isn't about being difficult. It's about being informed. This content is for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary by jurisdiction. Consult a licensed attorney for advice specific to your situation. Stay informed. Stay protected. Attorney Atlas, signing off.